Buddy. I am here today to read to you the last chapter of A Long Walk to Water. It's so sad. I really hope that you have been enjoying reading it with us. I love this book. It's a great book. I'm just really sad that we weren't able to read it all together. But anyway, here we go. Let's dive into chapter 18. Some vocabulary. There aren't a ton of vocabulary words in this chapter that you might be unfamiliar with, but one is the word cement. It's a noun. I put a picture of it on the slide. It is a powdery substance that, when mixed with sand and gravel, it can harden into concrete. So this is kind of what sidewalks are made of cement, or more accurately, concrete. A lot of people's patios are made of cement. If you have a basement, the floor might be made of cement. So that's what cement is. Dispute. You guys have probably heard this word before. It's a noun. It basically means a disagreement, an argument, or a debate. So if you have siblings, you most likely have had a dispute with them. And then the word astonishment is used in this chapter, and it is a noun that means great surprise. So you might show astonishment if somebody reveals some big news to you. All right, so we are beginning in Southern Sudan, chapter 18, 2009. Naya waited her turn in line. She was holding a plastic bottle. The well was finally finished. The gravel had been put down to make a foundation, the pump had been installed, and the cement had been poured and left to dry. Before the pump was used for the first time, the villagers all gathered around. The leader of the workers brought out a big sign made of blue canvas. The canvas had writing on it. The writing was in English, but the leader spoke to Naya's uncle, and Uncle told everyone what the sign said. In honor of Elm Street School, Uncle said, this is the name of a school in America. The students at the school raised the money for this well to be dug. Uncle held up one end of the sign. The workers' leader held up the other. Everyone else stood around it, and one of the workers took their picture. The picture would be sent to the American school so that the students there could see the well and the people who were now using it. Then the villagers all got in line to wait their turn for water from the new well. When Naya reached the head of the line, she smiled shyly at her uncle, who paused in his work for a moment to smile back at her. Then he began moving the pump handle, up and down, up and down. A stream of water flowed from the mouth of the pump. Naya held her bottle underneath the pump mouth. The bottle filled up quickly. She stepped aside to let the next person fill a bottle. Then she drank. The water was delicious. It wasn't warm or muddy like the water from the pond. It was cool and clear. Naya stopped drinking and held up the bottle so she could look at it. Funny that something without any color at all could look so nice. She drank a few more sips, then glanced around. Everyone had a bottle or a cup. They were drinking that lovely water, or waiting in line for more, or talking and laughing. It was a celebration. An old granddad standing not far from Naya shook his head. In a loud voice, he said, this is where we used to gather for our bonfire celebrations. I have been sitting on this ground my whole life. And all those years, I never knew that I was sitting on top of this good water. Everyone around him laughed. Naya laughed too. In a few more days, the school would be finished. Naya and Depp and Akir would all go to school along with the other children. Next year, there would be a marketplace where the villagers could sell and buy vegetables and chickens and other goods. There was even talk of a clinic someday, a medical clinic, so they wouldn't have to walk so far to get help, as they all had to do when Akir was ill. It was the well that was bringing the village all these good things. So this slide just shows you some of the benefits that having clean water can provide. So as we see in Naya's case, if the kids don't have to walk for water, they can go to school instead. So a lot of times when you have a well that gets put in, schools get put in nearby. Um, Well and clean waters also can improve hunger. Having water makes it easier for people to grow gardens and to create a food supply that is available year round. Because if you remember before, they had to go to another place for water because everything dried up. So they had to move houses in the middle of the year. Clean water also improves health. We have seen that Salva's father got really sick from the guinea worms because he was drinking uncontaminated water. So with clean water, they have safe water, clean hands, and healthy bodies. And last but not least, the water, because of all these other things, it ends the cycle of poverty so that people are able to have food, have water to drink. They can go to school, which can give them future opportunities for jobs. Water is just so, so incredible. So I'm going to keep reading. I'm on page 113 if you're following along. But the well was not for their use alone. People would come from miles around to fetch the good, clean water. Naya knew from listening to the grown-ups that the crew leader had made arrangements concerning the well. No one was ever to be refused water. Some of the villagers would be responsible for maintaining the well. They would be busy with this new work, so the entire village has to help them with their crops and cattle. Other villagers, including Naya's uncle, would resolve any disputes or arguments that arose. The well would change their lives in many ways. I will never again have to walk to the pond for water, Naya thought. She wandered around a little, sipping at her cool, fresh drink. Then she caught sight of the crew leader. He was standing by himself, leaning against one of the trucks and watching her uncle work the pump. Depp saw her looking at the man. That man, the boss of the workers, Depp said. You know, he is Dinka. Naya looked at Depp in astonishment. The Dinka and the Nuer did not look very different physically. You had to look at the scar patterns on people's faces to tell the tribes apart. Dinka scar patterns were different from those of the Nuer. But the crew leader had no scars on his face. Naya had heard some of the teenage boys talking about that, wondering why he had no scars when clearly he was a grown man. The leader's assistant was Nuer, so were most of the crew. They all had Nuer scars. Naya hadn't thought about it much, but she realized now she had always assumed that the leader was Nuer too. The Dinka and the Nuer were enemies. They had been for hundreds of years. Why would a Dinka bring water to us? She wondered aloud. I heard Uncle and Father talking about him, Depp said. He has drilled many wells for his own people. This year, he decided to drill for the Nuer as well. Depp had not really answered Naya's question. He probably doesn't know the answer, she thought. But now, Naya felt there was something she had to do. She walked over to where the man was standing. He didn't notice her at first, so she waited quietly. Then he saw her. "Hello," he said. Shyness flooded through Naya. For a moment, she didn't think she would be able to speak. She looked down at the ground, then at the stream of water still flowing from the pump mouth, and she found her voice. "Thank you," she said, and looked up at him bravely. "Thank you for bringing the water." The man smiled. "What's your name?" he asked. "I am Naya." "I am happy to meet you, Naya," he said. "My name is Salva." I hope you enjoyed that twist at the end, and I don't know if you saw it coming, but what a great ending. So, in all, the stories were intertwined, and eventually they met up again. Stay tuned for a message from Salva, and that is the end of the book. I hope you enjoyed it.
Good morning, and welcome to the final piece from A Long Walk to Water. This is a message from Salva, and this is what it says. This book is based on the true story of my life. I hope that because of the book, more people will learn about the Lost Boys and the country of Sudan. I was born in a small village called Luan Arik in Tanj country near southern Sudan. And just as it says in the book, I stayed in refugee camps in Ethiopia and Kenya for many years before I came to America. I am thankful to a great many people. The United Nations and the International Red Cross supported my life when I was in danger of starvation. The Moore family, St. Paul Episcopal Church, and the community of Rochester, New York, welcomed me to the United States. I am also grateful for the education I have received, especially at Monroe Community College. And deepest gratitude to the people who have helped me with my project, Water for Sudan, Inc., the schools, churches, civic organizations, and individuals all over the country. Special thanks to the Board of Water for Sudan and to the Rotary clubs that have worked closely with me. My dreams of helping people back home in Sudan are beginning to come true. I overcame all the difficult situations of my past because of the hope and perseverance that I had. I would not have made it without these two things. To young people, I would like to say, stay calm when things are hard or not going right with you. You will get through it when you persevere instead of quitting. Quitting leads to much less happiness in life than perseverance and hope. And this was written by Salva Dute in Rochester, New York in 2010. I hope you enjoyed the book, and I hope you learned much from it. Goodbye.